That'd be absolutely devastating.
Oh!
This is Joey Owens' show. They've been trying to get me on this broadcast forever, and this is the worst damn broadcast I've ever been on. So you all can kiss my ass while I win this match.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to G.W.R. Gonzo'S Wrestling Room, Thursday, March 30th, 2023. I'm Chris Gonzo'S, joined by Tony Gonzo'S.
Yep.
We're also joined by Marcus Fine and Pigeon Forge. How you doing, Marcus?
Doing good, doing good.
Then we have special guest pro wrestler Scott Diamond. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. Thank you all for having me. Marcus, good to see you, my friend.
You too. Will you are you going to be anywhere next Saturday?
Let's see.
We'll be down in Frankfort, Kentucky for the show in Frankfort, Kentucky on the 8th.
We have this weekend I've got to go up north. Let's see, today is Thursday. So Saturday and Sunday I'm going up north. My mother's been in a hospital, so I had to take the weekend off. I'm gonna head out up there, and then next week it just starts. I'm starting in Frankfurt on the 8th. I'll be in West Virginia on the 15th, accepting my third state Hall of Fame. Thankfully, thank the people there for voting for me. Oh shoot, I will be in Lawrenceburg on the 18th, and then. Gosh, I head back to Indiana on the 22nd, back to Lawrenceburg on the 23rd, and I left one out. I'm heading up to upstate Indiana with Shane Mercer also on the 21st. So it's I'm staying busy, and it's just I feel really blessed to be at this age that I am and be into a sport that I love so much, and even with being in semi-retirement, I'm still being blessed with so many bookings.
Yeah, don't sound like you're semi-retired.
Well, when doing this business for as long as I have met some great people, wrestlers, and fans alike. And when I've got great fans out there like Marcus and his family, they come and support me no matter where I'm at. When I've got fans that keep asking, I just I try to get these old bones up and give them what they asked for. They've been mighty good to me, and I'm trying to repay them.
Where are you originally from?
I bill out of Brentwood, California. I have made my home here in Kentucky for a long while now. I'm based now out of Frankfurt, the capital, if you will. So as I was saying again, with me slowing down and stuff, I moved here a few years back, and just kind of again just slowing it down a little bit. And then Frankfort, Kentucky seemed to be I was born in Kentucky, but we didn't stay there long in the place that I was born. But it's really nice out here. They've been really nice to me here. I may have not spent my entire career here, but I'm Kentucky born and bred all the way.
How long have you been wrestling?
Let's see. Have you ever read the book of the Bible where Noah had the ark? I came out of the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps from 82 to 89. And so, wrestling had always been a dream of mine since I seen Bobo Brazil in the Atlanta airport in 1970, 71, somewhere thereabouts. So I tried to get in and look at it and see how it was while I was in high school. And I thought maybe I would go in right out of high school. But I didn't, because back in those days, if you weren't at least 220 pounds, the promoters didn't want to talk to you. And I was a little shy of that. So I went in the Marine Corps, spent 6 years. And when I got out, started training for professional wrestling and done it a little while. And then I had my 2 oldest children, and I got out for a little while to raise them. And then when they got a little older and in high school, well, I had the opportunity to come back. So we've been kicking it about another 20 years here now. So, you know, some days I feel I can do 20 or 30 more.
What got you into pro wrestling? I mean,
when I walked into the airport, the Atlanta airport, let's see, 70, 71. So I guess it was 1971. Shoot, you guys probably wasn't even thought of then, but when I back in those days, you know, you could still smoke in the airport and all that kind of stuff. And so when I was getting ready to grab a flight with my uncle there, I seen this fella, huge. I mean, he was huge. This guy, he was so big. He looked so cool, and he had on this long fur coat, and he had a big wide brim hat. And I think the thing that set it off for me was again, you could smoke back then in the airport and stuff. And he had this long white ivory pipe that he was smoking. And, you know, he just looked like the coolest thing that ever come down the pike. And so I asked my uncle, I said, I don't know who that guy is. Do you know who he is? You know, I could take away from the people gathering around him that he was somebody. I just didn't know who. And my uncle said, he's the world wrestling heavyweight champion. That's Bobo Brazil. And from that moment on, I was locked. I was hooked. Kind of the same way I got hooked in the Marine Corps. In the 6th grade, a recruiter came to our school, and they were dressed in their dress blues and all that. And when I seen that uniform, it was the same thing as what Bobo Brazil did to me. This cat looked so sharp. I knew, you know, one day, although it's the hardest thing in the world to do, I'm going to try to not only be a part of wrestling, but I would like to start my wrestling career really in the Marine Corps. So that's what kind of got me started, though, to answer your question, Bobo.
what was the other people that influenced you besides Bobo?
Well, you know, I think it's, you hear this so much, but Ric Flair, you know, I got the opportunity to sit down with Rick right before I left in 1982. And, you know, I talked to him and a little bit, and he gave me some pointers that when I got out of the service, because I had already signed up in the Marine Corps, because again, I wasn't 220 pounds, and a lot of promoters didn't want to, they wanted you to be big guys, you know, and at about 170 pounds, I just wasn't big enough at the time. And so in talking to Ric Flair, the things that he said, and, you know, you could see on his face, you know, just like, I don't want to downplay this by using children as an example, but when you wake up Christmas morning, you know, and something that your child has wanted all of his life, or a dog or a bike or whatever it is, and when they open that package and they see that package that they wanted for so long for Christmas, you really see that adulation in their face. You see that happiness. You see that joy. And that's what I seen in Ric Flair when he's telling me, you know, giving me these pointers of what to do in order to get into the business. I could see on his face, this is something that this man genuinely had a feeling in his heart for. And, you know, that kind of right there sealed the deal. Again, Bobo looked sharp as all get out. And by the time that I got to high school, I had been wrestling in high school. And when I got to meet Rick, I mean, again, it just solidified the deal. You know, I'll tell you another funny one time. My son gets on me now because we've been bad guys most of our career. And so now, you know, I get a little weepy eyed at times. Folks like Marcus and you know, some of the companies that I have worked for, they start giving me these nice plaques and saying these nice things about me. And, you know, it kind of chokes me up. And one time I said to Rick, I said, Rick, when I seen you, man, you were tearing it up. The Horseman was the, stable to be, and the NWA was the title. I said, but man, now I see you all the time, and all you're doing is crying. And he said, brother, you just don't understand yet. You just don't understand. But if you stay with it, you will. And now I understand. Again, when you love something so much, it's just sometimes it gets very emotional because we go out just like you guys do and try to put out the best product that you can put out there. And when you have the backing of the fans and the people, and I'll tell you even a bigger one, when you have the respect of your peers, there's nothing like it, man. There's just nothing like it. And so that really, when you start feeling that, and your career's slipping away, you get older and you move out of the way for the young people to come in, it really does become very emotional. Because again, you just try to go out there and do the best job you can, and then when it comes time to retire, when people acknowledge you the way they've been doing, Rick, I understand now, brother. I understand.
Marcus, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Did you ever wrestle Bobo after you met him? Did you ever wrestle him down the line?
No, I worked some shows with Bobo Jr., but I never had the opportunity to work with Bobo Brazil Sr. Now I've worked with a lot of great guys. We've been talking about Rick, Jerry Lawler, Dan Severin, bless his heart, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Boy, Gary Valiant, Tito Santana, Axe and Smash. Now, Bill Eadie, he did several gimmicks, if you will. And meeting that guy, let me tell you, one in a million. George South, too. Here's another guy that a lot of people don't talk about. But, all these guys, they culminate this love for what we do. And when I see that, it just it motivates me, too. Whenever I'm on an event with one of these so-called names, it causes me to go out there and push another 110%.
You mentioned Bill Eadie, and of course, a lot of people are going to remember him from Demolition. But I grew up. I'm almost 60 years old. I grew up, and what really stood out to me was when he was the Masked Superstar. I loved him as the Masked Superstar. So I mean, that was the one that really stood out for me.
Hey, Chris, air hug, baby, because I feel the same way, brother.
That's Tony.
I'm Tony.
He's Tony.
That's Tony.
That's Chris.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're good.
You see, I got my specs on. I still can't read.
That's okay.
One time in Cincinnati, it's gone now. It's a shame, but so many of the great buildings are gone now. But one time in Cincinnati, the Masked Superstar, if you will, and Paul Jones was the tag team champions, the NWA tag team champions at the time, out of the Crockett promotion. And their match was against Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. And here's a blast from the past. Some of you guys may not remember this guy, but Ray, oh gosh, now I forgot his last name. Ray the Crippler.
Steven.
Oh gosh, Stevens. Yes, yeah. Stevens. And so, man, I'll tell you what, these guys, everybody nowadays, some of these younger stars and things, and I'm not taking anything away from them, they go out here and they do a 1,000,001 high flying moves and flip over the ring and all that kind of stuff. And that's good if you like that. But let me tell you, these four guys right here, Jimmy Snuka, Ray Stevens, the Masked Superstar, and Paul Jones. A lot of folks don't give Paul Jones his just dues. This cat is one tough dude. And I watched the four of them just tear the house down in Cincinnati. And right there is when it was for me, at that moment, the Masked Superstar, Bill Eadie, if you will, by far my favorite character he ever had, period. And don't get me wrong, Demolition was a great tag team. Barry Darcel, good guy. He did a lot of stuff, Ivan Koloff and some other things. Great tag team, but I'm with you. The Masked Superstar will always be the Bill Eadie that I fell in love with.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it just, he talked pretty well on the mic. There was just something about him, that I really liked compared. Not that I like Demolition too, but Demolition was kind of the Road Warrior knockoff. So maybe that, and I was a big NWA guy. I still like Demolition, but the Mass Superstar, yeah. And then he was also in WWE, if I remember right. He was one of the Machines.
Yeah, one of the Machines with Andre.
Yeah, he was one of the Machines with Andre also. So yeah, he did a lot of stuff.
We talked about him a few weeks ago on one of our podcasts, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I learned stuff from you guys because you guys have been around longer than me.
Hey, that's what we're here for, My broadcasting colleagues, Otis Badass and Aaron Tiny Rose, they say the same thing to me each week. We put out the broadcast and I reference the original Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Gene and Ole. Last week I referenced Ivan Putski. We would not be where we're at today without some of those unsung heroes.
And the thing of it is, if you look at Putski, what he looked like in the 70s compared to what he looked like in the 80s, the body transformation was incredible.
This fellow was a walking piece of meat with eyeballs. I mean, he had muscles on top of muscles. I would have liked to have been in the, Ken Patera in 1972 was deemed the strongest man in the world.
Yep.
Which actually, we got to thank him for getting Ric Flair into the business. Ken Patera is who we got to thank there.
Yep.
But, Ken Patera went to the WWF for Vince Sr. I tell you, I would have liked to seen Ken Patera and Ivan Putski do a match. And I never had the opportunity to see that. I don't know if they even had one. But here's two guys, again, that had muscles on top of muscles. And this was...
I think they actually did arm wrestling. I don't think they matched up. It's just arm wrestling.
Paul Bosch had them down there in Houston doing some arm wrestling stuff. But I mean, if these two guys could get into a match, I could only just imagine what it would be like. And, again, this was before the time of LOD. So, you had Jesse the Body and you had a couple of guys that were really built, but not like those two guys.
Do you guys remember the old thing that WWE did? They had, WWF, they had Ken Patera, and they did a thing where they had a car and they put his back up against the wall and he was stopping the car. And
yes.
And the throttle supposedly got stuck and the
wheels were spinning out.
Yeah, spinning out.
Yes. Man, you've got a great mind. Kudos to you, my friend.
Hey, these guys know I watch even the wrestling now. I'm watching wrestling I watch wrestling 7 days a week, watching old stuff, new stuff, independent. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I tell you what got me hooked was back in the day. Bruiser and Crusher was on Channel 4 here in Muncie and Indianapolis, and then also the match that I really remember the first match I seen, which Marcus has heard this 1,000 times, was Blackjack Lanza against Bruiser and Crusher in Newcastle, Indiana. That's what got me hooked.
They
and
also
Bobby the Brain Heenan against Billy Red Cloud in a chain match. I got to see a chain match. So that got me hooked, and I was probably about 7 years old. So I've been hooked ever since. So
if he's awake,
you couldn't have picked better people to watch to get inspired by. I just done an event here not too long ago with Bob's son, Barry Windham. Great family of wrestlers, even nephews and stuff, IRS and them all related. I mean, excuse me, when Blackjack Mulligan came to the ring, you knew somebody's going to get beat up. This guy wasn't flashy. He walked in, he told you what he was going to do, and 9 out of 10 times he done it. And what really sold me on him is when he and Bobby Duncombe, the first time that I seen them two lock it up, whenever you get two Texans in the ring, there's no need for ropes because the ropes are not going to contain it. Texan wrestlers are, man, I'll tell you, they've got an undying drive that they just, they could run all their blood out, break every bone in their body, and they'd still be trying to get up and fight.
Yeah, perfect example. And I don't even know if he's from Texas, but he wrestled in Texas all the time. Bruiser Brody. he just.
Oh, you're right. There's another one. Tough as nails. And, really got a crappy deal down there with Carlos Colon and those guys.
Yeah.
Look, they know who stabbed him. They knew the whole deal. And, I don't want to get sued, so I don't want to say too much about it. But great wrestler. His passing, his murder, he got a crappy deal.
Yeah. What was the hardest thing for you to learn in pro wrestling when you started?
As far as a move or anything in general,
Either or.
Well, as far as a move, arm drag. I don't know why. I guess maybe because we were sweaty and all this kind of stuff. But the very first arm drag that I went to throw, the guy literally landed right on top of me. It was real garbage. Look, that we didn't have Botchamania then, but if they had Botchamania then, we'd have been on it. So as far as the move, and I stopped using it. Again, it seems like a simple move and whatnot, but you get in there and you get all slippery and stuff like that. It's sometimes hard to connect with somebody's arm and hold on to it and stuff. But as far as wrestling as a whole, I think the hardest thing to learn is the psychology of what we do. Ring psychology is so important, and it's probably the hardest thing to learn. And I think that's the one thing that most people are lacking. You have some folks that have come out and they have a great body. Some people come out and they have a great stamina. But, even if you got a great body, great stamina, and you got a long list of great wrestling moves, if you don't understand the psychology, the rest of it just doesn't mean anything. When you do something in the ring, it has to mean something.
What was your favorite wrestling move that you did?
Well, I coined, when I first came in, again, because Rick was a big influence, I used figure four a little bit, not just as a finishing move, but I used it there for a little bit. I didn't use it all the time. I kind of took Jerry Lawler's fist drop from the top and called it the Diamond 5, and that quickly became a finishing move of mine. But I think the two moves that I probably used the most, that I really enjoyed, especially as I got older, was the Oklahoma side roll and a small package, because you can lock them in really quick, and it just takes someone to make one small mistake and you can capitalize on that. To whereas, you really got to have them beat down in order to climb those buckles and drop off with that Diamond 5 fist drop. You've got a few seconds in between there. With an Oklahoma side roll or the small package, it's all right now. And you wrap them up generally so quick they don't realize what happened to them. You get that 3 count and you get that win. And that's really what it's all about. You want to get those wins, and you want to build your way up the ladder so that you get enough wins to where you can compete for a championship. And I've won a couple of times with those two moves, and I've won a lot with the Diamond 5, but I've won quite a bit, and probably my two favorite moves, the Oklahoma side roll and the small package.
What do you love about the wrestling business, and also what do you dislike about the wrestling business?
Well, dislike is very easy. Very easy. Excuse me just one second. I should have asked you guys, is it okay to smoke on your program?
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Fine.
Now then, you asked me what I liked about the business and what I disliked about the business. So,
Tony's girlfriend.
Funny enough, I think that's my daughter's ringtone on my wife's phone too. I started to look around to see who was in the office with me, So let's go to what I dislike first, because when I get good news and bad news, I always take the bad news first, because then the good news cheers me up. So the bad thing that I really despise in the wrestling business is the politicking. There's no room for it. Look at the mess that our country is in, and that's due to politics. Anytime you put politics into something, it instantly goes sour. And unfortunately, the wrestling business, there's a lot of politics, and I'm just not real big on those. I have been fired. I've been suspended. You know, you name it, it's happened to me because I never played politics. Politics doesn't need to be in the wrestling business. You get two guys that love the business and they want to go out there and they want to entertain the fans and beat the heck out of each other. There's no politics in that. That's what I love to see, which leads me to what I love about this business. You know, you don't see it much on TNA and Impact and, you know, ROH a little bit, not at all hardly on WWE. But what I really love about this business is the camaraderie that you can get with the fans. We have, and that is our greatest asset on the independent scene. Now, I've worked big shows and I've worked independent shows, and I'll take the independent shows any day, all day, 24/7. Independent companies allow the wrestlers, the valets, the referees, they allow everyone to get a connection with the fans. Even if you're a bad guy, like I've been a bad guy most of my career. Steve Austin was a bad guy and people loved him too. Sometimes even when you're a bad guy, they don't like maybe what you're doing to one of their beloved good guys, but they'll find a certain respect. They will love to hate you, and whatever it is, whether they love me or they hate me, I get that, and I have that. Marcus is living proof. I have that connection with the people, and I think that is the greatest thing that professional wrestling on the independent scene brings to all of us, not just to the fans, not just to the wrestlers, but to all of us. Because I have done shows, and you know, in the early days, I used to peek through the curtain and see who I could go out and mess with. You know, excuse me. They might be a guy out there, and you know, he's got a belt and he's talking all kind of trash, and he's in the audience and whatnot. And so if I find someone at ringside that is real vocal, kind of a little cocky themselves or whatnot, in the older days, that's who I would run straight to. I would run straight to them because they're already fired up. So if I go to them, they're only going to get more fired up. So when the fans are fired up, whether they're hating you or they're loving on you, that's what it's about, man. And that electricity, it just flows through me and a lot of us, but it just flows through me so much. It pushes me to do even better because I go to some places, you know, I've worked in front of 10 people and I've worked in front of 1,000 people. But even those 10 people, they deserve the best that you can give them because they too paid their $8, $10, $15, whatever it is. No matter how big a scale, when they're into it, that really makes us into it that much more. And I love that about our business. You know, and again, sorry, Mark, I just keep using you, man. But it's a prime example right here with Mark. He and I have been friends for years, and I have been a bad guy a long time. But my love for the sport and his love for the sport, it brought us together. And now look at us sitting right here. Been friends for years.
Tony, you forgot to ask him who trained him.
Yeah, I did. Who yeah, go ahead, Marcus. You asked.
Yeah.
All right. Who trained you? I've been through this enough. This is actually my first interview, but I've watched Tony do it enough times. I know the question. So
you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Just don't ask me too much about my hair.
Well, I don't have it either, so it doesn't matter. So
you know, it's getting a little thin now, but I was doing this show in Michigan one time, and this DJ, I had a match coming up that was hair versus control of the company. And so if I won, we had a 6-man elimination. And if I had won, which I did, we would get control of this company for 30 days. If I lost, they were going to shave my head. And so this DJ, he kept saying, I mean, he's a very good journalist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to trash talk him. Good journalist. But he really got under my skin because he kept saying, well, what are you going to do? And that was the key thing. What are you going to do when they cut your hair? And I kept telling him, I'm a Marine. I never go into a fight thinking I'm going to lose. So they're not going to cut my hair. And then he would ask me a couple of more questions, and he would circle right back around with the same thing. And he said, well, what are you going to do when they cut your hair? And so he said this 2 or 3 times, and then I just kind of got agitated, and we had a few cross words. And so I politely told him, look, all you got to do is come to one of my events and bring your wife and kid, and I'll have you crying in front of them. Holy smokes. Who would have thought that he brought his wife and kids up to a show? Actually up around your guys' area. He drove from Michigan. I think it was in Evansville, but he drove from Michigan and met me at a show up there. And of course, he wasn't in our life. So it is the same as I treated him on the radio deal. I treated him the same way when he got there. Look, I don't tell you how to go up there and do radio. Don't come here and try to tell me about wrestling. And he made the mistake of pushing me, and he spent 2 days in the hospital. But after that, once he seen the error of his ways, so to speak, we now are good friends. So you're doing fine. Don't let them hassle you too much. Everybody's got to have their first sooner or later. Just don't let it cause you to get 2 days in the hospital.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, who did train you?
Well, I started out with an Olympic wrestler. His name was Steve White in '87. And then from there, I just started picking things up. I did a whole lot of book work on myself while I was in the service, because I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in the Marine Corps. And so the entire time I was basically training to be a wrestler. And when I met Steve, he kind of like give me a more insight on really what it was about, because it was a whole new ball game compared to collegiate wrestling. I mean, it was worlds apart. And from then, I've sat and I've learned from everybody I've ever been in the ring with. I've learned stuff from Rick. I learned stuff from Bill Eadie, we were talking about, Al Snow. Gosh, my great friend, rest his soul, Tracy Smothers. Just everybody that I ever stepped into the ring with, anybody that I ever had an event with, I would always study and carry. I used to carry this, I don't know what they call it now, but we used to call it a composition notebook. And I was constantly writing stuff down. And I was constantly, there are the days we didn't have a lot of film, but when film came in, the small camcorders and things like that, I started videoing everything. And I would come home and I would sit for hours and just study film on top of film on top of film. And I always like to watch it as it occurred live, if you will, with the sound and watching it and stuff. And then I have a habit of I'll turn the sound off and then watch it again, so I can really pick up. With the sound on, you can pick up what works and what does not work with the people. And then with the sound off, you're able to see the mechanisms of how they're turning and how they're doing these things and stuff like that. And then, just go to the arena and work out and work out and work out some more. So I know I'm an old man, long-winded, but I know I stretched your question out. But, Steve helped me a lot. And then everybody else that I've ever been in the ring with, I have always tried to learn at least one thing from everybody that I've ever been to the ring with or even to a show with.
Is there any professional wrestler that you would like to work with that you haven't had the opportunity to yet?
Yeah. I was just talking the other day when I was talking with Jay Lethal, and I've had a pretty good career, and someone asked me the same question back in October of 21. And so when I thought about it, I think the two young cats that I'd really would enjoy working with today was one, Jay Lethal, which I've accomplished that now. I've been with him the last 2 weeks. But AJ Styles, I would really like to work with this young man. He is, and look, no pun intended, but whoever gave him his moniker, they were dead on. This cat is phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. I would really like to work with him.
Favorite match that you've had in your career, and also favorite opponent?
Oh, my favorite opponent of all time would have to be TJ Lightning. This cat, I couldn't do anything right when it came to him. He could never, everything I did in his eyes, he hated. Anything that, I mean, back and forth, I think we had a mutual respect, which made our matches great. But I think outside in front of the people, they could really see that for a long time, he and I just, no matter what we done, it was oil and water. And a lot of these places we go, excuse me, the good guy locker room is separate from the bad guy locker room. And so, you sit there in the anticipation of, I've worked this guy 100 times. It always turns out good, but the guy never wants to shake my hand. As good as he is, I never wanted to shake his hand, and I just never understood it. But he, by far, has got to be my favorite person that I have ever wrestled in my life. And, I've been in there with Rob Terry and a lot of the big names. But TJ Lightning is by far the guy I love to wrestle against, by far, TJ Lightning. Now you talk about my favorite match. I just had that. I guess it was back in September, August or September. Again, my head's a little clouded. I've had too many concussions. But for the first time, my son has started his wrestling career, my youngest son. Another thing that Rick and I always had in common, he had Reed. Now I've got Austin. And we were at an event, and it was just a retirement ceremony, more or less, for myself. I never took my gear, which is breaking the cardinal rule, because we always were told, and I tell my kids too, always bring your gear. Bring a ref shirt, bring your wrestling gear, and when you get there, you better be dressed up nice, or you're going to hear it from me. You got to be prepared to do whatever they need you to do. And so we went to this event with RWA in Jeffersonville, Indiana, with Cack and Jack and Jay Deasy and some of those guys over there in Southern Indiana. And so again, these cats came from Michigan. I don't know what it is with Michigan. Those people up there just don't like me. And so, yeah, they can keep drinking on that water though, right? That's their problem. That's why they don't like me, because that water they're drinking's kind of turned into zombies. But these cats came down from Michigan, these two guys, and my son, he had just made his in-ring debut a month earlier, and he had tore his meniscus. And so, but in true Diamond fashion, I've worked with broken ribs, concussions, dislocated arm, you name it. If my top part was connected to my bottom part, I was in the ring no matter what I was missing. And Austin Diamond is I'm very proud, carrying on that same legacy. Although he had a torn meniscus, when these two guys, they come out putting down the older wrestlers and stuff. You know how some of the young folks are. They're such in a hurry to make their own name, they forget about those who paved the way for them. And so when they come out and interrupted my ceremony and challenged me, of course, again, I wasn't prepared to wrestle, but bless his heart, my son Austin, he has the heart of a lion, and he said, torn meniscus or none, let me have him. I'll take him. And so it started out halfway decent, I guess, but, and I'm not crying over spilled milk. The cartel, we always won by hook or crook. I don't care what we had to do. If I had to bring a bus and run over you just to get the pin, that's what we did. But, it turned into like a 3-on-1 deal. And, I'm a father. It made me irate. And so I asked the powers that be, the office of RWA, if they would, allow me to just do a tag match. I know we weren't scheduled for no tag or anything. And hell, honestly, Austin's match wasn't scheduled. And when you do these events, you really, for the most part, you got to try to stay on your schedule, because you have time restraints and all this other things that go back behind the scenes. But the powers that be allowed him to have that match. And then when it kind of went haywire and it turned into a 3-1, Scott Diamond took his jacket off and got in the ring, and Austin and I tagged together for the first time ever. You know, I had managed him. He had been to ringside with me, but we had never in all these years, never had opportunity to wrestle a match together. And so that is by far and will always be my favorite match of all time, my first match, and probably my last match with my son, Austin. We tagged against these three guys. It was a 3-on-2 tag. And, you know, fortunately, we came out with the Duke. You know, experience paid off. Even though Austin's a little green and those guys were a little green. Again, thankfully, my experience in coaching Austin, we were able to come away with a win. And I'll always cherish that moment. That match right there is my favorite match, and it's right there with my favorite moment in wrestling, which was when my dad came to the very first Scott Diamond Bash. And 3 weeks, he had, or excuse me, 3 days. He had a stroke on Wednesday and a heart attack. The stroke caused him to have a heart attack on Wednesday. So the first Diamond Bash was on Saturday. And when they told him that he wasn't going to be out of the hospital soon enough, oh my goodness, you know, those guys of yesteryear, they were strong people. He just started pulling IVs out. And don't you know, come that Saturday night, he was sitting front row to see his son do the first Scott Diamond birthday bash. So Austin is my favorite match. TJ is my favorite opponent. And my dad being at ringside for the first Diamond Bash and watching him fold up that walker and get ready to crown Larry D and King Hustle. That's, oh my gosh. Those right there are the things that I hope people remember about Scott Diamond, because those are my 3 favorite things right there.
That's cool. Any promotions that you would like to work for that you haven't had the opportunity to?
Gosh, you know, I really can't think of too many. I mean, because I've been so blessed. I've worked for just about everybody on the independent scene. You know, Chicagoland, I had an opportunity to go up there. Of course, with Austin's leg, we didn't get a chance. My good friend John Bullard. So I hope still to get up there one day to Chicagoland wrestling and get to do some work with them. As I said earlier, I'm going over with Shane Mercer's group, and we're going to do some stuff with them next week. So, I mean, really looking on it, I'm working with New South Wrestling right now, which is they're hotter than a match head. I mean, they're bringing in the best talent all around the world. And just about everybody else, you know, there are other great companies here for sure. You know, UCW with Terry England and USWF, you know, with Rated X, Jimmy Walls. There's some great companies here, but you know, really, I've worked for them all. I think the only one I probably have not worked for in the state of Kentucky anyway is the NWF with Roger Ruffin. You know, they got a lot of great things going up there around Cincinnati and stuff. And but at this stage of the game, you know, I've worked for just about everybody, and I'm really happy that the companies that are still calling me still keep me working. But again, my main home right now is New South Wrestling. Great company. Anthony Presley, a great president over there. I'm getting to mentor a lot of kids. So, you know, doggone, I've just been blessed to be able to work just about anywhere that I wanted to go. And even at one point, you know, Tennessee Mountain Wrestling, the longest wrestling organization ever in the state of Tennessee, Bob Orton Jr. ran that, and I got to book for him for a long while. And I mean, that was just amazing when a guy like Bob Orton asked you to book his company. Of course, Terry Landale was down there with us. He was the acting promoter. When you get to work with those two guys, and Terry's gone now, rest his soul, but wow, where do you go when you've already been on the best programs that the country has to offer?
You had said earlier you were a Hall of Famer in 3 different states. What 3 states are you in the Hall of Fame?
Southern Indiana, Kentucky Elite, And now I'll be going over to West Virginia to be inducted in that Hall of Fame on April the 15th. You know, I was lucky enough to work again in several states over the years, and nobody thinks about Hall of Fames or anything like that. You know, we just you just think about going out there and doing the best you can do, and you know, getting your money and getting that car or getting that plane or whatever, and go to the next venue, next event, and you know, it goes by really faster than you would think. One day, you know, you're 18 years old and you're dodging bullets for breakfast, and next thing you know, you're in here with some of your idols. I mean, gentlemen, I cannot tell you how I felt on the first Diamond Bash when Jimmy, the Boogie Woogie Man, handsome Jimmy Valiant, calls me and sings happy birthday to me over the phone. I mean, gosh, the Hall of Fames are nice. Jimmy doing that's nice, and it's just, you know, you don't think about it as you're doing your job, but now looking back, it's I've been pretty blessed.
This is a question I'm really interested to see what your answer is going to be. If we told you a month from now we're going to book you in a 10,000 seat arena, who would be your opponent? Who would be your fantasy post? Living, past, whatever. Who would be your person?
Wow, that's a great question because there's so many great guys. If I could have Paul Bosch as the promoter, I probably would like to wrestle Ric Flair. You know, Bobo and I, and it's really all about what has good chemistry and things. And Bobo was so big, I don't think he and I would really have a good match because he would probably just come out and kill me. And Ric Flair would do the same, but our sizes are similar. You know, he always wrestled 242, and I stayed between 225 and 250. So if I ever had an opportunity to wrestle anybody past or present, it would certainly be Ric Flair. Much respect for that guy right there. So much respect.
Best decision you've made in your wrestling career and the worst decision you made in your wrestling career.
Oh, shoot. Fellas, I've made some bad decisions throughout the years, let me tell you. Wow, the best decision I ever made. I think probably the best decision I ever made was leaving a company that I had worked for them for several years, and then I even wrote and booked for them for about a year. But probably the best decision I ever made was leaving that company. I started a riot the night that I left, and that was in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. And I've started 6 in my time, but that was probably one that two in the same building over there in Clarksville. But
Marcus has been wanting a riot.
Yeah, I've been wanting a riot.
Was you in that one, Marcus?
No, I was not. I just wanted to be a part of a riot. I was part of a Dick the Bruiser riot when I was 16 years old.
Well, then you had it. You had it with the best right there. Then.
Yeah, you're not a kidding. So if you know how to start a riot, when I see you next Saturday, I expect
Are you coming down for the 22nd?
No, I'm coming down on the 8th next weekend.
On the 8th. I got to try to behave on that one, Marcus. I'm there in a mentorship manner. That will be the inaugural show of Elite Wrestling Alliance. So maybe not there, but come Jeffersonville, Indiana, April the 22nd with DPW, you know, Doomsday Pro Wrestling. I sent Jimmy Lamb to the hospital, and when I get over there on the 22nd, you know, one thing that I don't like to tolerate, and I won't tolerate, is you disrespect myself or my family. You know, I've let some of the big names. I chased, let's just say Wildfire. I don't want to say his name, but I chased Wildfire out of the building one time with a 44 Magnum. So watch out, because I am not afraid. I'm not that guy. I'll start a riot. I'll shoot somebody. I'll beat somebody up in the parking lot at the drop of a hat. And so I made a prediction because they disrespect me over there. And that's why I had to teach Wildfire a little respect. He disrespected my family. You don't disrespect Scott Diamond or none of my family, because then you know, something's going to happen, and it's not always good. And so I sent Jimmy Lamb to the hospital the last time. And so these two cats got on there, and they wanted to be a little disrespectful after the fact. And so come April the 27th, or excuse me, the 22nd, Marcus, I guarantee you it's going to be hot, and I'm sending somebody, whether it's a riot, whether it breaks out or not, I'm not sure, but I will guarantee you I am sending somebody to the hospital, and it's going to be a hot night. You got Scott Diamond's guarantee on that, brother. But on the 8th, I got to behave.
I'll let you behave.
I'll try. But if they're out of scotch, I might go off a little bit.
Have you always wrestled with Scott Diamond?
I'm sorry?
Have you always wrestled as Scott Diamond, or did you wrestle as somebody else and as a different name in your early days? Or
Well, when I first started, I wanted I was using Bo the Bad Man. I didn't even have a last name. That even came later. But when I got out for a long time, and again, you know, psychology is the thing here. When I chose, it turned into Bo the Bad Man or Bo Evil, and the Bad Man was the moniker. But when I came back in, you know, I changed it to Scott Diamond for two reasons. Well, I guess really for three reasons. One, as I realized, as I learned the craft more, the more I learned about ring psychology and psychology of the business. Bo the Bad Man was, you couldn't be a good guy with a moniker like that. You just couldn't. You could only be a bad guy. You couldn't be a good guy. And the way that you find out whether you're really truly a great worker, quote unquote, is to be able to get over good as a good guy and to really be hated as a bad guy. And so with Bo the Bad Man, there was nowhere to go with that except for being a bad guy. So I did a newspaper article when I first came to Kentucky and started back into the business. And I decided to go with Scott Diamond because they already knew my first name anyway. I mean, a lot of people already knew my first name. And so I just figured it was a whole lot easier just to stick with my first name, my real first name, because that's what they all knew. Ed the Strangler Lewis changed our business forever. He changed our business to what it is today. Predetermined. Don't use the F word with me, fellas, because that is just terrible, terrible, terrible.
no, we don't use the F word either.
That
So
when
none of us do that.
you say that FAKE, that goes right through me because there's nothing FAKE about professional wrestling at all. Might be predetermined, but that's that. So, you know, when I thought about that, you know, Ed Lewis changing our business, it reminded me of my grandfather because he too was a Lewis, and they were related, and so I wanted to pay homage to the Lewis name, but I always felt like I have more respect for those cats to go out and make it on their own merits as opposed to, you know, taking someone else's name. So I couldn't take my grandfather's last name Lewis to pay homage to him and Ed Lewis. So I thought, you know, they used to call, my granddad's name was Jim Lewis, and they used to call him Diamond Jim. And so thus is where the diamond came from, and it stuck, you know, it went in the newspaper. Once people heard it, I mean, it took off. And so, you know, I think it was probably, going back to a question you had a while ago, that's probably one of the greatest things I did as well. Not only leave that company, but choose the diamond name. And the worst thing I ever done. So one time, you know, we beat a lot of people up, people coming over the barrier, wrestlers, fans, you name it. But one time I was doing TV, and this gentleman, his son was in the hospital. And so, you know, me being the consummate bad guy that I had to always be, we were doing a live TV interview, and you know, they don't tell you what to say. They just go out there and say, "Hey, you got 3 minutes. You know, do your thing." And so when I went out there, you know, as much as my father hated this, you know, when they pay you to be a bad guy, again, you got to be the best bad guy that you can be. And so this gentleman had a young son in the hospital, and so I was trying to conduct business, and you know, I've always said you have to separate friendship and business. That because if you can't separate friendship from business, that's when the politicking comes in. So I always try to separate friendship and business. And so when I'm out there, it's all business. And so when he had this young man in the hospital, I said, you know, I just wish he would hurry up and pass. That way we can get on to business. And you know, it got a really bad reaction. I thought I was going to have to pull the Magnum out that night. People were trying to kill me. You know, and that's a terrible thing to say. It's a terrible thing to say, you know, because this was a very young man, and he was battling the worst demon on the face of the planet, cancer. And to say something like that, that's, you know, I should have went somewhere else with that instead of there. And now looking back, you know, I don't want to say I really regret it because they were paying me to be like that. But I really wish I had not said that. I wish that I would have went somewhere else. Because thankfully, this young man made a full recovery. I'm very happy for that. And I can tell you after that moment and then reflecting upon that, that is definitely the worst thing I ever done. And I will never do that again. I would not use a child to promote me being bad or somebody else being good. Now, the bad fun stuff, there was a guy I was training to be an announcer, and he was in the Army. Of course, with me being a Marine, you know, it was a little bit of animosity back and forth there a little bit. I was a little bit older, and he was a little bit younger, so he still had a little fire under his ass. And so when he came in, he just automatically thought because he was in the Army and he was younger that he already knew everything he needed to know, and there was nothing left for me to teach him. And so he was giving me such a bad way to go this one weekend. We had 2 or 3 shows in the same weekend that we were on the same shows. And so we were coming past one day that, you know, Waffle Kings, Waffle Houses, Denny's. If you want to see wrestlers, go there. You see more wrestlers in Denny's and Waffle House than you see a wrestling show.
Why is that? Is that just because there's Denny's and Waffle Houses everywhere?
That's the only thing open after the events. It's the only thing open. And so we come
a lot of wrestlers love Waffle House.
Rikishi.
Yeah,
Look, I'm
Rikishi Waffle House.
Yes, actually, we were headed talking about Rikishi. Rikishi and I, we were driving in separate vehicles, but we had done a show this night, and so we were going to meet at this Huddle House. It was, and so he came in early for my youngest son's birthday years ago. I don't know. It was his 5th or 6th birthday. I don't remember now what it was. And so when he came in for Austin's birthday, you know, he and I got to hang out a lot, and it was the first time that I got to meet him. And so we did the birthday party that night. We did the show the next night, and he was telling me in the back, you know, we were talking about things that we missed from being on the road, and the thing that he missed, you know, Rikishi and his family are so family orientated. I mean, there is a tight family, brother. You ain't never going to find any family more tight than Rikishi and those Samoans. They are the epitome of what a family time is supposed to be about. They really are. And so he missed home cooking. So I said, you know, I don't know how much time I would have to cook, or we could hang out and cook, because, you know, we had a whole week of work to do. We had to do on the road. And so he said, you know, I really miss homemade apple pie. And I said, well, hell, you know, I'm going to be home for the next 2 days. I'll just make you one. And so I made him one. We took it to the event. We ate it after the event. And he says, well, we had dessert. Now let's go get a burger or something, And so where are we heading to? Waffle King, Waffle House, Huddle House, something. And but right as we were getting ready to turn to the Waffle House, a drunk driver hit us, and so kind of messed us up, kind of bad. But again, that place was packed. The Waffle House was not the Waffle House; it was the Huddle House. It was packed, and so when we had the accident right there by it, it looked like we were having another wrestling event right in the four-way intersection of this main state highway. Traffic is stopped. There's wrestlers everywhere, and Rikishi was right there. That guy right there. To answer your question, that's the only thing open, and we all love to eat. But again, there's a bond and a respect with a lot of us that even though we love to eat in these Waffle Houses and all this stuff, our stomachs can handle it. It would kill most people. But they showed me how much love there's still left in the business too, because the 50 people that was in that Huddle House, excuse me, once they seen the accident and somebody said, it was Scott Diamond and his family, the entire restaurant, I mean, it emptied out, and they were all right there at the scene of accident, including Rikishi. So, I guess they should be paying us a sponsorship because we eat there so much. But one night we were coming through, and so I see this guy's car, right? I see this guy's car, and it's the guy that was in the Army giving me a bad way to go. Excuse me. And so, it's always great when you can see that surprise and you can get that raw emotion, So we just waited for him to come out, and he had his girlfriend and his little girl and whatnot with him. And so, there was 3 of us and only 1 of him, which makes great odds. And so while I talked to him, the other cartel members got behind him and clubbed him down, and we threw him in an old dumpster and left him. Now that's the bad fun times.
Yeah.
You think you're going out for a burger or a steak, and you wind up after you leave and pay the check. Not only are you feeling bad because it cost you so much when they brought you the check, now you're feeling worse because some guys just snuck up and threw you in an old nasty dumpster.
Best piece of advice that you've been given in the wrestling business and also in life?
I think the two things that the one thing that brings the two together, you have to always be true to yourself. You have to be true to who you are. You have to be true to who your character is, and you need to protect those. You have to have rules for yourself in life and in wrestling. I think that's the best advice I could give any young people coming up the ladder. I wish way back when that I would have stood my ground a little more, because I allowed some promoters, they would bring me in, and some of the places they really wanted the cartel, but there were some places that only wanted Scott Diamond and not the whole cartel. And the reason being is they would bring me in, and then they would say, okay, Joe Bob A and Joe Bob B, we like these guys, but they're not really over with the people, and we want you to get them over, and we're going to use your moniker, the Diamond Cartel, with these guys that are not the Diamond Cartel. And I let a couple of companies do that to me, and I wish, looking back, that I never would have. I wish that it took me a little while when I first came back, because I was just I was feeling blessed that I had a second opportunity for something that I loved, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go, good, bad, or indifferent. And so I allowed some of these promoters to do that to me, thinking, second guessing myself, basically, and whether the fans would still be interested in Scott Diamond and stuff. So I would suggest in life, be true to who you are. If you say it, own it, back it up, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. because sometimes decisions have to be made that are not very popular, but they still have to be made. So be true to yourself and your family. And in the wrestling business, stay true to yourself and your character. Now, when you go out there, a promoter will tell you what they want. And of course, winning and losing, it means nothing. Winning and losing, of course, winning titles, everybody wants to win. But if you go out there and you're true to yourself and you lose, that's okay, because you stay true to yourself and you can come back tomorrow and you can fight another day. But if you go out there and you let them, tear your character down, especially in today's times. I mean, you guys got it nowadays a lot harder than we had it. There was none of this social media. Everybody had a camera on their phone and all that. There was none of that. And so when they said, hey, we're badass guys, well, they were seeing in the house shows, they were badass guys. Now with social media, if you promote yourself, as we always have in the Diamond Cartel, look, we're not nice guys. We don't wear white hats. Well, when you go and you allow a promoter or a booker to pull you away from being true to who you are and who your character is, and it waters it down, it's with social media, it could kill your entire career, because when they see Scott Diamond is putting out the Diamond Cartel, and we always build ourselves as evil, mean, and nasty. And if with social media nowadays, another company or another set of fans somewhere in another part of the country or the world, well, they said Scott Diamond was evil, mean, and nasty. The Diamond Cartel was evil, mean, and nasty. But over here in Mississippi, well, they just got punked out by 2 girls and a goat. You just can't do it. Excuse me. Especially nowadays with the way that social media is, everything is instant. Everything is on the web and it's there forever. So if you're not true to yourself, don't get mad when you go to the next promotion and they don't want to book you the way that you said you were at the last promotion, because social media will call you out. Wrestling fans, they're very bright fans. They really are. Wrestling is 365 days a year. The fans take no off days, just like we don't take off days. And if you don't think wrestling fans don't know what they're talking about, go sit an hour and talk with Marcus Fine. Go sit and talk to Dustin Harden. Go sit for an hour and talk to Andrew Browning. The fans are they're the long and short of it. They really are. And when you tell them that you're something, if you're not that, they're going to call you out on it. So that would be my best advice, again, in life and in the business. Be true to yourself, be true to your character, and keep your ears and eyes open.
Any style of match that you haven't done yet that you would like to do?
Gosh, guys, I've done everything. I think I've never done a death match, and I have no inclination to even want to do a death match. There's definitely a certain skill set and a mindset that goes with that. But I think it pulls away from a little bit of what we do. Again, I'm not knocking any of the men and women that do that. I have some great friends that do that. So I've done just about every other match that I could think of. I've been in the cage matches and been busted up, and bull rope matches. Even one year I came up with a trick or treat match. There was 4 pumpkins, 1 on each ring post. 2 had weapons and candy, and just 2 had nothing but candy. And boy, one of those really cost me. There was a pair of brass knucks in one, and the guy jumped off the apron and hit me on top of the head with the brass knucks. And of course, at that point, I looked like the fountain at Caesar's Palace, and it just squirting everywhere. So I've done just about every match that I ever wanted to do, and they've all been fun. The dumpster match was really fun. It's one that sticks out in my mind, which gave me, actually, I guess, the idea to throw that guy in the dumpster. Earl Kelly and myself did a dumpster match one time in Irvine, Kentucky, and sold the place out. And we were probably 50 years old at the time. So, gimmick matches are great. I love them. I love them.
What's been the
too?
Yep. What's been the biggest match that you've had? What would you say has been your biggest match?
I was in a 4-way dance one time, and I was coming close. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. I was coming close to retirement, and I had held almost every title as a wrestler that I did as a manager, except now I've managed many heavyweight champions, but I never held the heavyweight championship as a wrestler. And so fortunately, we had a 4-way dance one night for the KEPW heavyweight championship. And I was lucky enough to come out the winner and finally bring home the thing that really I wanted to try to grab all my career, and it constantly eluded me. Again, I was probably a mediocre wrestler at best. I always felt I was a great entertainer, great tactician. I do my homework, great manager. But I was a middle of the card guy, and as a wrestler, and when I had that opportunity to get in that 4-way dance, I knew that it was probably my last chance. And again, fortunately, it didn't turn out like the guys thought, and I was able to get a roll up on the guy and come away the heavyweight champion. So that's probably something that sits really near and dear to my heart. I never thought it would be. I really never thought I'd be. Now, I knew when I seen Bobo in 71 that's what I wanted. But as you grow old, older, you just have to face the facts. You either can still do it and do it with the best of them, or you got to start falling down the line there. And so I knew it was my last shot, and thankfully I got that, and it really sealed the deal for me again, because I've held probably over 200 titles as a manager and managed many champions. And I've won several titles, championship titles as a wrestler, but that was the one that always escaped me until that night. So, and I didn't keep it long, but still, I made it. I made it to the top. I made my dad proud, so to speak.
You're Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling.
Ric Flair, Bobo Brazil, Dusty Rhodes, Steve Austin, and the promoter, Paul Bosch, managed probably by none other than Jimmy Cornette. Although he always gives me a hard time when I see him.
I think he gives everybody a hard time.
I love that.
That's Jimmy. That's Jimmy.
Do you have any hobbies?
Yeah, when I'm home, I've got a wood shop out here that I built in the garage, and so I've got a whole room dedicated to my wood crafting and stuff. It allows me to release a little stress and things like that. When I was younger, I was a pretty good water skier and things like that. But as I got older, it's just woodworking and stuff now is what helps me. I'm too damned old to be out there flying around on the water. Falling down don't do me like it used to. But you get in there into the shop, I get in there to the shop, and it's just so much bliss, Now I still like to sit and watch a lot of footage. I'm still a diehard wrestling fan, and I watch as much footage as possible. But sometimes when I just gotta try to bring my feet back down to earth, I'll go in there and turn on some old tunes and turn the machines on and start making something.
Any wrestlers out there that have caught your eye in the pro scene or the independent scene?
Right now in that younger crowd, there is a few guys. Sean Hoodridge, Chris Crow, they're known as Colorblind. Trained by Tracy Smothers, again, my good friend, rest his soul. They are tearing it up. They're great young talent. Marty Clay, another one, great young talent out of Eastern Kentucky. and my wrestling son, Adrian Alexander. These 4 young men right here are really, really, they are taking, when you talk about wrestling, they personify it. These 4 young men right here, they really do. Now, of course, there's some older guys out there still, Chance Prophet, the Zodiac, a lot of those guys, J.R. Rock, they're really, they've always been on top, and they will till they retire. But when it comes to the young cats, Adrian Alexander, Marty Clay, Chris Crow, Sean Hoodridge, those are the 4 that come to mind right off the bat. And there's a couple of young women out there too, that are young. They're tearing it up. Ari Alexander, second generation wrestler. She's doing great things. Alexis Littlefoot. She was trained here by the legendary Larry D. She's doing some great things. Nurse Micah, I've been working with her a little bit. She's really doing great things. So I think right now wrestling is in a really good place. We've got some great new young talent coming up in not only the men's division but the women's division. And I'm grateful to be able to sit back and mentor these kids a little bit. And I'm really eager to see, where they're going to go. I'm going to sit right there in the front row and watch these youngsters because they're really doing great things. They really are. Dustin Jackson is another guy. Troy Parker is another guy. I mean, these young cats, I feel just as blessed to be working with these young people as I was in my own career. They really give you hope that true traditional wrestling is still alive and well in the sport today. You get a chance, check out any one of these cats. I'm telling you, they're really moving.
We've seen Ari Alexander quite a bit here in Indiana, and we actually just saw Alexis Littlefoot over the weekend. She was at a show here in Indiana over the weekend, and just got to see her. I haven't got a chance to see none of the guys you mentioned. I actually wrote all the names down because I'll be checking them out.
Yeah, go over to the YouTube page. Aaron Tiny Rose does a great job putting that footage up there, and look at the New South Wrestling channel. A lot of great young talent right there. I'll tell you another one I've been working with. This kid is phenomenal. Brian Pillman Jr.
Yeah, we saw him a few weeks ago. Yep, he was impressive.
Yes, really.
Hey, he is. I'm talking about psychology being the hardest thing to learn. This kid is getting it early. Homage to his dad by all means. Brian Pillman and I grew up in the same area, along with Wildcat Chris Harris, Sean Casey, Brian Beach. A lot of us grew up in that area. And so this kid, he got the name, but his dad wasn't here to train him. But this kid he must have watched all of his dad's footage, and he has listened to everything that anyone's ever told him, because psychology, again, is the hardest part. And Brian Pillman Jr., this kid gets it. He gets it.
Yeah, we got the privilege to see him wrestle on the same show with Ari Alexander, and we were there setting up our stuff and watched him, and Ari pretty much put the match together that Ari was going to wrestle later on in the show
against Haley Hood J.
Against Haley Hood J, and it was really cool because seeing them working together, and then see when Haley Hood got there, they talked to her, and then to see the match, move for move that he put together with her, it was really cool. It was really neat. And also about Brian Pillman Jr. I think he's very talented. I think AEW is not using him correctly. I think he's a lot more talented than some of the other guys that they are using, because they're not really using him that much. And I think he could be
he wrestled Apollo Star that night here in Indiana when we saw him.
It was great.
And it was awesome.
You mentioned Hollywood Haley J. Let me give a shout out to her and her mother too. Look, I love that girl. She grew up in my house, and her and my daughter, they grew up together, good friends. Very proud of that young lady too. I don't know how I forgot her. She's my baby. Hollywood Haley J. She's another one. She's just tearing the scene up. She's another one. She grew up in this business like Austin did. So she too, early on, she gets it.
Yep.
Hey, go over there and wow, women of wrestling and see them. You know, they're the mother truckers, and they're doing great things. You know, her mother over there is known as Betty, and of course, and then but Amazing Maria and Holly Hood over there tagging together at WOW, and I just couldn't be more proud of her.
Yeah, her and Ari put on a heck of a match that night.
It was really good.
It was one of the best women's matches that we've seen on the independent scene.
Yeah, it was.
I agree 110%. You know, here you got two second generation wrestlers, and they are not trying to ride the coattails. You know, Vlad is Ari's dad, and the second, you know, he's wrestled a good wrestler in his own right. And then, of course, again, we were talking about Amazing Maria, Hollywood Haley J's mother. These two young girls are not living on the merits of their parents, just like Austin. They are going out there and they are making a name for themselves. They are making their own bones, and that again makes me very proud of them.
Do you have a favorite food?
Cannolis, baby, cannolis. Yeah, they had me blossom up, so the doctor's got me on a diet right now. But hey, if my wife ain't looking, you send me a box of cannolis, I'll send you a Christmas card every year.
And you also mentioned when you do your woodworking, you talked about music. Do you have a favorite type of music?
You know, I listen to a little bit of everything, just depending on the mood. You know, here lately I've been on a Big Mama Thornton and Sister Rosetta Tharpe kind of kick. You know, it's Big Mama Thornton. She's the grandmother of the blues, and you know, she did a lot of stuff with John Lee Hooker and whatnot in the early days. I really enjoy that. Howlin' Wolf, Sam Cooke. I mean, and then when I go over to Sister Rosetta Tharpe, you know, she kind of took like Elvis did. You know, she took gospel and rock and kind of meshed them together. And you know, she's the first woman ever to sing gospel with electric guitar. So yeah, when I get out there, it's either blues or, you know, some soul. Sometimes it's some old country. Sometimes it's some old rock. Because I love to listen to Woodstock. You know, there was so many great people there. Country Joe and the Fish, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Janis. But it's just all in, depending on what the mood that I'm in that day.
Do you have a favorite song?
You know, I probably do, and had you not asked me, I could probably tell you. There's just so many. You know, how would you put your finger on just one? You know, again, Elvis had so many. Hank Jr. had so many. Howlin' Wolf had so many. I mean, Smokestack Lightning, you cannot go wrong. I don't care how you're feeling. Smokestack Lightning comes on, or Smokestack Lightning to me is like when you hear Phil Collins.
What happened?
Oh,
Now she's trying to call.
oh.
I was like, oh, we lost Sal for a second.
Yeah.
Marcus,
Yeah,
you
she's
have
having a good time. She's gonna call me. You know how it is.
Yeah.
If you guys are not married, you know, I'll send you her. If you don't have any kids, I'll send you. I got a 16-year-old. I'll send you.
Marcus, you have any other question?
No, I think we pretty well covered it.
Yep, I think so. I'll tell you why. It's been really awesome. I like, and Marcus knows this, old school wrestling, man, is where it's at for me. I mean, even though I watch everything now and really excited about WrestleMania this weekend, old school is where it's at for me, definitely.
Have you worked any shows up here lately? Have you ever worked for Don Basher at any time?
No,
I know we talked about him one time, but
no, I have not worked for him. I mean, I worked up in Indiana, a lot in Southern Indiana. Did a little bit at the Evansville, and then, you know, with Sam Cosby over there in Illinois. That's been a lot of my work up in that area.
Other than, because I know you worked a lot in Kentucky, other than Kentucky, do you have another favorite area?
You know, I gotta say Southern Indiana, really, because I had some really great times over there with Pondo and Mickey Knuckles and all that. I mean, Pondo broke a cinder block on my diamonds one night over there, and I don't know why they choose those old areas, but Mickey Knuckles also, she hit me so hard, she punched me so hard one time, I coughed up blood there. So I've got so much history in Southern Indiana. That's definitely one of my favorite places of that outside of Kentucky to work.
Yeah, Pondo and Mickey Knuckles are great. Yeah, we've seen them both here recently, and I seen Mickey a long time ago. So yeah.
Do you watch
Yeah, I
much?
love
Do you
them to
watch
death,
much of
man.
the
Good
TV?
people.
Do you watch much of the
Sorry?
TV product? Do you watch much of the TV product nowadays?
I do not. Um, if I watch something, I like to watch the 60s, the 70s, and some 80s because old is new. And I don't care for all the propaganda today. You know, marketing is great. It's about money, but I'm about the traditional wrestling style, the Memphis style, if you will.
What
Well,
when you
since you wrestled in, I'm sorry.
when you might check out, I don't know if you have, but the NWA now they show on YouTube. It's about as old school, still old school as you find.
Oh, the NWA Power.
NWA Power, and yeah, they're pretty old school. It's no frills. It's pretty old school, cut and dry.
You know, I did watch. Let me move over here. I'm starting to. I need to plug in here real quick. You know, I watched some of their first stuff. Okay, see if I can get back in the thing here. There we go. Is that better? Can you guys see me again?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I seen some of that, their first couple of shows, and I really dig that. You know, I see Ricky down there a lot, him and Kerry.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty old school. It reminds me of a little bit of the old TBS stuff, TBS studio stuff back in the day. So it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I
actually, we
enjoy it.
just did a 605 deal last week.
Did you?
Oh, 60,
Was there,
605 Turner Broadcasting. That's serious old school. That
Oh
and
yeah.
Jerry Jarrett, rest his soul. We just lost him in Memphis.
Yep.
was there anything that we didn't hit on that you wanted to talk about?
I would just like to say, you know, watch for Austin Diamond. We'll be coming, like you said, to Southern Indiana on April the 22nd. We will we'll be there also April 21st for New South Wrestling. It's been the proving ground as of late for the wrestlers that are coming up that want to prove themselves. There's a lot of great independent programs out there. And if you really like pro wrestling, do yourself a favor and go check out an indie show, because an indie show is so much better than you know the big dance, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, WrestleMania is big. I really like the Hall of Fame thing over there. I don't watch too much WWE anymore, but if you like that, if you like wrestling, by all means, do yourself a favor and go check out an independent promotion. I guarantee you're going to like it way, way much better. Get that connection with your favorite stars.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different atmosphere. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
I love going
Yeah,
to the
it certainly
independent
is.
Yep. Marcus, have you had the opportunity to see Austin Diamond?
No, when I was down there, he was, I think, doing commentary
Okay.
there at that
Yes.
KPW, I think it was,
Yeah,
and
he
come and talked
started
to me
out
after the
commentary,
show.
yes.
Yeah.
So
But
how long has he been wrestling now?
He started last summer. Now he's
Okay.
been training for 2 years. Again, you know, he was born into the sport, but he's been working actively since last summer. He actually has April the 15th. He has a match in West Virginia. Really proud of him. He's out there making his bones on his own, like I said, and you know, it's just You know, it's just when you see the younger generation and you know you had a hand in preserving this thing that we love called wrestling, it really makes you feel good. And so I'm really happy to see what he's doing. Again, you know, he's got the heart of a lion. He went out there with a torn meniscus and worked anyway. He still works out every day. So that's, you know, be watching for him, and certainly be watching for Adrian Alexander, you know, my wrestling son. He too is doing some great things. Really happy for both of those guys.
Marcus, do you think they might be interested in that contest that we got?
Hey, anybody, just go ahead and put it in there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell them.
Yeah, we've got a contest that we're involved with a promotion here in Muncie, Indiana called DCCW. I always have trouble with that. And they're a pretty big promotion here in Muncie, and they got a big show coming up on May the 13th. And it's called the Bearcat Rumble, and it's a fundraiser for a high school here in town. And
For the high school wrestling
team. And last year they had a big event. Marcus got to go to it. They had Carlito there, Primo, Epico, and then it got some great young wrestlers. Well, we're doing a promotion with them where we're doing an opportunity for any trained wrestler out there to be on that show. And all they have to do is send in a no longer than a 60-second promo. They send in a 60-second promo saying why they should be on the DCCW show, and they can get an opportunity to be on that show.
That sounds great. You guys can shoot me that info when we get done here. I would love to pass that along to Austin.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll send you the little flyer I made after the show.
Yeah, and it's got to be turned in before midnight,
April 21st.
April 21st, and we'll announce the winner on May 1st. The show's on May 13th. And any young wrestler that you know that might be interested.
Yeah, I'll send you the graphic on it after we get done.
Okay. Yeah, I will turn that over to my kids for sure. You know, and anytime that you can get a spot to get your name out there, that's very important. I appreciate that from you guys.
And I know Marcus will second this. It's a great promotion ran by great people.
He might know Mike.
Yeah, you might know his real name is Jared Bird, but his goes by ladies man Mike King. He's wrestled.
Oh, actually, yeah.
He
I'm
runs
familiar with him.
Yeah, he runs that promotion there, and it's a really good promotion.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. You know, even though I'm almost 60, I'm still all about a good time.
Yep.
Well, good.
I'm good to go.
All right. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on, and you're more than welcome to come back on anytime. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed listening to the stories and stuff.
Most definitely.
And then then we'll have to get your son on here sometime as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. You know, I just want to thank you guys for having me. I'd be glad to be on at any time. You know, I've done 100 million of these things throughout the years, and I really, every one of them I think is a great thing because, you know, I explained that wrestling is a puzzle. There's very many pieces to the puzzle, but each piece of that puzzle is important because when one piece is not there, the picture is not complete. And you guys, what you're doing right now, you guys are a very important piece of the puzzle. By far, for sure, believe it. Because you guys help guys like myself, and more importantly, these younger guys and girls coming up, you guys give them a platform to help them get their name out. And that is one of the hardest things to do for a young wrestler is to get their character out there, get some recognition. And, you know, without guys like you, it would be so much tougher than what it is today. So, look, thank you for having me. I'll be on here anytime. And you guys keep doing what you're doing because it is a great thing that you're adding to the sport of professional wrestling.
We're having a great time. We
Thank
really
you.
enjoy it. Yeah, appreciate the kind words.
Oh, yeah, I'm having a blast. We was at 2 shows over the weekend.
Well, 3 count.
Yeah, 3 because we done a Hall of Fame show and then we done 2 wrestling shows over the weekend. So we got
If you guys are free, head on over to Wayne, Indiana, April 15th, and we'll have a party at another Hall of Fame show.
if we
Bring
wasn't
the
already,
cannolis. I'll bring the
if we wasn't already
champagne.
booked-
You bring the cannolis.
If we wasn't already booked, I'd be there.
We'll be.
Unfortunately, we're already booked that day.
We'll be in Kokomo, Indiana, with Marcus.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. When we can get together, I'll bring the champagne, the cigars, and you guys just bring the music or something.
All right. That sounds like a deal.
All right, gentlemen. I want to say, keep your eyes and ears open. You're going to be seeing Adrian Alexander and Austin Diamond all over, tearing the place up. And let me throw one of my other kids out there, Mr. Carson Drake.
Oh, he's
Another great youngster out there that
Carson's
was under
great.
the learning tree of Scott Diamond. And
we've seen Carson. We look.
We love Carson.
We think Carson's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Outstanding.
well, when you see him the next time or the next time you talk to him, tell him stop using all of my stuff and my mother sends her love. Believe it or not, when he moved over here from California and started training with me a little bit, he's a young pharmacist. And believe it or not, my mother met him at the pharmacy that he worked at, and she fell in love with him. So, I have to put him over now.
He does not look like a pharmacist.
Yeah,
You would never think he's a pharmacist. You would never think that.
No, not with this character.
No.
And there's other guys that I work with in the business that are too, and you just wouldn't really know it to look at them. But the next time you see Carson, tell him stop using all of Scott Diamond's material.
I will.
Do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we just saw him over the weekend, and we'll see him again here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks. So, yep.
You're starting to see a lot of these guys from the Kentucky area making their way up
Cincinnati.
up here in northern Indiana.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we've had a lot of great wrestlers come out of the state of Kentucky, and man, almost all of us gravitate to Indiana and Tennessee because these are two states outside of Kentucky. Again, if you train here or whatever, these two places are so hot, Indiana and Tennessee. And look at a lot of the young stars. Well, they're getting a little older now, 20 years plus. But look at how many: John Cena, Batista, Molina, Brock Lesnar. All of them studied right here in Louisville, Kentucky. So we've turned out a lot of great wrestling superstars from the state of Kentucky. And again, they gravitate to where great wrestling is. And again, which is in Indiana, Tennessee. Of course, there's great wrestling everywhere else, but these two states, it seems that a lot of the Kentucky wrestlers, they gravitate to Indiana and Tennessee as well as Kentucky.
all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get out of here for tonight. But like I said, we appreciate you coming on. Before I go off air, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube at GonzoSportsRoom. We greatly appreciate that. Like and follow Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all at GonzoSportsRoom, and at the All Sports All Plays Network as well. Today's Thursday, right? So yeah, we don't have no more shows tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with our sports shows. Anything else?
No, good to go.
And we don't have no wrestling shows this weekend because we're going to be home watching WrestleMania with the kids.
Yep.
But then we'll
party.
be
everybody's pretty much maniaing out this weekend.
Yep. He has a big WrestleMania party every year.
Yep.
So that's what we'll be doing. Now it's 2 days. So it takes the whole weekend.
And then after the weekend, it takes 2 days to recover.
Yeah.
That's true.
Crackers and Gatorade, my friend. Crackers and Gatorade.
But we thank everybody for joining us. This has been GWR. We thank Scott Diamond for coming on. Thank Marcus Fine for coming on with us. And we'll see you guys next time.
Take care, gentlemen. I'll see you down.
That'd be absolutely devastating.
This is Joey Owens' show. They've been trying to get me on this broadcast forever, and this is the worst damn broadcast I've ever been on. So you all can kiss my ass while I win this match.